Here we go. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Lois Frankel from Florida, chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus. We are 93 members strong. Our members are mothers, grandmothers, daughters, sisters, spouses, and partners. And we understand the joys and stresses of young families, the needs of our aging parents, and the fight for women to be in charge of our own personal health and economic security. And every day we bring our life experiences to the halls of Capitol to tackle the challenges of the American families. We stand steadfast against Republicans' policies that attack women and families, and we make an unwavering commitment to the women in America. We see you and we hear you, and we're fighting for you to restore and protect your reproductive freedom, lower your everyday costs, and raise your wages. And now I welcome Congresswoman Veronica Escobar to further explain.
Thank you, Lois. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the Democratic Women's Caucus for taking a lead on all of these issues and for including me, a member of the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, co-chair, to help ensure that we deliver the message to American women. What we have been seeing in week after week after week in the House of Representatives is our colleagues on the other side of the aisle not just attack women and women's freedom, but also work against everything that is important to women. And so we, as members of the Democratic Women's Caucus, felt it was critically important to come forward and bring forward the agenda that we have in order to ensure American women have everything that they need in order to be successful. From restoring reproductive freedoms to lowering costs and ensuring economic security to protecting IVF and far more, we are here to work on behalf of the 51% of Americans who are women and whose agenda and values have been threatened by Republicans in the House and the Senate. Now, I would like to welcome and introduce Judy Chu, a member of the Democratic Women's Caucus.
Hello, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, and I'm proud to stand alongside my colleagues today as we reaffirm our commitment to America's women. Since Trump's Supreme Court overturned Roe 2 years ago, more than 25 million women of reproductive age now live in 22 states with MAGA Republican abortion bans. We've heard a constant, heartbreaking series of stories, like Kate Cox in Texas, who was forced to cross straight borders to access emergency abortion care. Like Amanda Zarowski in Texas, who was denied care during a miscarriage, went into septic shock without abortion care and nearly lost her life. Like Amber Thurman in Georgia, denied an abortion and lost her life, leaving behind a 6-year-old son after being denied this care due to doctors' fear of prosecution. The state of reproductive health care in this country is at a crisis point, and Trump and his cronies have laid out the next phase for MAGA's war against women. Project 2025. Make no mistake, Trump's Project 2025 explicitly states that the Dobbs decision was just the beginning and describes every possible way that MAGA Republicans will weaponize our federal government against abortion care and take further control of women's bodies, from banning mifepristone to bringing back the Comstock Act, to forcing states to track women's pregnancies and report and potentially criminalize women who seek abortion care out of state. But at every opportunity, the American people have voted to support abortion rights and the right to make decisions about their own bodies. So to women everywhere, we see you, we hear you, we are fighting for you. The Democratic Women's Caucus won't let Republicans use Project 2025 to take us back. This year is pivotal in that fight, and as members of Congress who are part of the Women's Caucus, we pledge our commitment to restore and protect your right to abortion, to secure access to birth control, and to guarantee the right to IVF and fertility care. You should control your own destiny and decide when, whether, and how to start a family. We are working so hard on legislation to do all that. That includes passing my bill, the Women's Health Protection Act, H.R. 12, into law to restore the protections of Roe and end state-level abortion bans and restrictions that impede access. When we once again control Congress, we will send this bill and other critical legislation authored by my women colleagues to the president's desk to finally establish real reproductive freedom for all women in America. I will now hand it over to my colleague, Congressmember Brown.
Thank you, Congresswoman Chu, and thank you, DWC Chairwoman Congresswoman Frankel, for organizing this event. I am Congresswoman Shontel Brown. I represent Ohio's 11th Congressional District. The commitment to America's women is an agenda women want and need, and reproductive rights are at the center of that agenda. Since Roe was overturned, because of Donald Trump and his allies, more people have lost rights in this country than at any time since the implementation of Jim Crow. If you don't have control over your own body, everything else is at risk. This week, the nation has heard a heartbroken story of Amber Nicole Thurman, a young woman in Georgia who died because she could not receive the proper care. Amber's story reminds us that part of the cruelty of abortion bans is that they also deny and delay urgent medical care. In my state of Ohio, a woman named Brittany Watts suffered a miscarriage at her home. Instead of receiving medical care, she was charged with a crime. Instead of seeing a doctor, she was arrested. Like Amber, Brittany was denied care at the hospital because they were worried about violating Ohio's laws. This is about restoring our rights and making sure women don't die because their health care is illegal. This threat is especially severe for Black women like Amber Thurman, like Brittany Watts, and like me. The 3 states with the most Black women in this country, Texas, Florida, and Georgia, are 3 states with abortion bans. Black women know what happens when our rights are left up to the states. That's why we need national protections and why the DWC is fighting so hard to restore them. And with that, I want to hand it off to someone who continues to fight for all women, and that is my good friend, Annie Custer.
Thank you, Shontel. Thank you, Congresswoman Annie Custer. Next, let's talk about the everyday struggles that women and their families face, the rising costs that threaten our economic stability. Republican policies are a betrayal of hardworking families. They hand out tax breaks to the ultra-wealthy while slashing funding for health care, child care, and essential services that millions of women and their families rely on. But we are not going to let them get away with it. Our promise to women in America is to lower the costs that weigh women and families down. We're lowering prescription drug prices because no one should have to choose between buying medicine and putting food on the table. We're tackling the maternal health crisis, which disproportionately affects women of color because every mother deserves to give birth safely and with dignity. We'll protect Social Security and Medicare, ensuring that our seniors who have worked hard all their lives can live with security, dignity, and peace of mind. Care work is the foundation of our society, and it's time we treated it as such. We will build a child care system that works for everyone, not just the wealthy. We will make home and community-based care accessible and affordable. And we will ensure that care workers, predominantly women, are paid what they deserve. No woman should have to choose between her family's well-being and her own financial security. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, our majority leader. Minority leader, Katherine.
Well, thank you for the promotion, and really so grateful to all my colleagues for being here, and to Chair Frankel for your leadership of the Democratic Women's Caucus. And in the face of politics first, MAGA majority, the DWC has been a force for women's freedom, for their dignity, and prosperity. And I am proud to stand with my colleagues in making a solemn commitment to American women. We will not back down from this fight. We will not allow extremists to prioritize their ideology over your well-being. We will always defend your basic rights. And our country faces a choice between two radically different visions for the future of our daughters and our granddaughters. You've heard what that means for reproductive freedom. You've heard about the need to lower costs, because this is also about economic opportunity, the ability to have a job, to pursue a career, and raise a family. The ability not just to get by, but get ahead. Let's look at early education. Women know the cost of childcare is painfully, outrageously high. We know it pushes 4 out of 10 families into debt. Trump thinks that childcare is, quote, not that expensive. We want to lower those costs and open more classrooms in more neighborhoods. Trump wants to eliminate Head Start. It's all written down in Project 2025. We want to pay early educators a fair wage. Trump proposes to cut school funding in half, fire teachers, and shut down the Department of Education. That's the stark difference between our two plans. Democrats are ready to move our country forward and build a future worthy of our children, a future where every family can afford to give their child a great start. So let's reject the extremism and build that better future. And it is my pleasure to yield to a leader who's been helping us get there, my friend from the land of enchantment in New Mexico, Congresswoman Teresa Fernández.
Buenos dias, and thank you, our Whip Clark, and thank you to everybody behind here, and especially Lois Frankel, our joyful warrior heading up the DWC. So I want to talk directly to the Mujeres of America, to our sisters working hard every day to provide for their families and the people they love. My message is simple, and it's the message we've all been delivering. The Democratic Women's Caucus is with you every step of the way. We are not just your representatives. We're your partners, your allies, and your joyful warriors in the pursuit of a better and more secure future. Our commitment to you is we hear you, we see you, but in reality, we are you. As mothers, workers, caregivers, business owners, farm workers, we have shared your struggles. That's why economic security is a key pillar of the Democratic Women's Caucus commitment to you. It's a promise we will keep. My grandmother used to say, when you educate a man, you have an educated man. When you educate a woman, you have an educated family, right? My grandmother knew that it took education. That's why whether it's workforce training, college education, or knowing the workplace rights that will allow you to feed, educate, and house your family, we intend to provide women with the resources my abuela knew everybody needed, because she will then pass them on to her family. And we must be honest that the policies that exist today place too many burdens on women and mothers as caregivers of both our children and our parents. Our contributions are not valued, and our value is not paid. A woman's prosperous economic future depends on us changing that. We need guaranteed paid leave for all so that no woman has to choose between their paycheck and caring for their loved ones. This is not just a matter of fairness. It's a matter of dignity. We believe in a world where you can balance your work and your family without fear of losing your job that sustains you. And women must finally receive equal pay for equal work. Right? It's been 16 years since we passed the Equal Pay Act. Really? Latinas right now earn 51 cents. Latinas earn 51 cents for every dollar that a white man earns. It's just as bad for Native Americans, for black women, for white women. It is horrible, and we intend to fix that. We will not stop fighting until every woman in every corner of this country is paid what she deserves. From the people's house to your house, we want every woman to have economic security, freedom, and equality. Together, we can build an economy that works for women, a future where your paycheck reflects your hard work, where your career path is full of opportunity, and where your family thrives because the policies that support you are in place. Here at the Democratic Women's Caucus, we know what real family values mean. Real family values mean passing policies that provide economic security to every familia. Muchísimas gracias. And I am the last speaker today, but we will be taking questions. So any questions from the press for anybody?
Hi, thank you. Oriana with Notice. So after backlash that Trump has received from the anti-abortion movement for quote-unquote softening his position, J.D. Vance said on Monday he went to the Faith and Freedom Coalition and addressed this backlash by saying that social conservatives and the anti-abortion movement will always have a seat at the table of the GOP. And I just wanted to get y'all's reactions to this.
I think what you look at is look at the bills that Republicans have signed on to and voted for. And they show over and over again that they are not protecting a woman's right to reproductive health. And why don't we have Judy Chu provide a response?
The twists and turns of Republicans reflects the strength of the issue of reproductive freedom in this country. They were all in for saying that life begins at conception and for a national abortion ban. And remember how much Trump was saying that he was the hero who brought down Dobbs. So they have seen that this issue is losing it for them, because in every state where abortion has been on the ballot, even the most conservative states like Kentucky and Kansas, abortion has always won. It has not lost in any state where it's on the ballot. And look how many states it's on the ballot in November. So it's a winning issue for us. And that's why you see them twisting and turning and saying, yeah, maybe, it's okay in some cases, but then saying, yeah, social conservatives will always be at the table. So they don't know where their position is, but it's also a very, very hypocritical thing for them to do. I just hope that the American people are not fooled that their position is for a national abortion ban, and all women would suffer as a result.
This is what we know. This is the GOP's agenda. Not only have they written it down in Project 2025, in the House of Representatives, they continue to vote every day to take away this fundamental right. And what is happening in this country is that people understand when the government is coming in, when Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are perching at the edge of your exam table, they understand that is a level of government intrusion they don't tolerate. No matter what their feelings may be on abortion, they want to make that decision. Women, men, families across our country understand that if, when, and how to start a family, to have children, should be their decision that they make with their family, their loved ones, that they make with their doctor's advice, and that they make in accordance with their faith. That is why this issue has won every single time it's been on the ballot, whether that is in Kansas or Ohio or Tennessee or in Kentucky. And it is why we continue to see this as a potent political issue, because people understand it's about fundamental freedom. And Donald Trump can try and hide from this, but J.D. Vance, under the broken clock rule, has told the truth. These anti-freedom people and their agenda to make women second-class citizens has more than a seat at their table. It is fundamental to the way they are proposing to continue to govern. And the women whose deaths have been exposed in Georgia as directly related to that abortion ban, we wish that that heartbreak, that denial of fundamental health care were limited to them. But we cannot strip away health care for women, for pregnant women, and say it's going to have anything but a catastrophic result that we have seen across this country. And now 1/3 of the counties in our country do not have an OBGYN. 1/3. This is millions of women are being impacted, and their vision, because they write it down, is a national ban. It will not be safe in any of the states like mine at home in Massachusetts, where we currently have our freedom and right to health care intact. That is their vision. They can try to hide behind it, but J.D. Vance is telling the truth on this one.
Yeah.
Thank you all for doing this. Vice President Harris is running on what she calls an opportunity economy, proposing, deeper investments in the child tax credit, earned income tax credit, down payment assistance for first-time homeowners. I could go on and on. How does this commitment to America's women fit within how the Vice President is running her campaign at the top of the ticket?
Yeah, we've worked very closely with the Harris campaign, Harris Walls, and it all fits together. I think one way we're trying to get people to understand is that women need economic security to get ahead. When you talk about lower wages, what you're really talking about is less access to opportunity, less access to education or job training. I'll tell you, in my state of New Hampshire, 12% of the women left the workforce during COVID, and only half came back. They can't afford. Our child care centers closed, and that impacts the whole economy. That not just families, but that impacts our economy. Our unemployment is down around 2%, and people can't, companies can't, businesses, small businesses, colleges, nonprofits, hospitals can't find workers. So women make up an important part of our economy as caregivers, as workers, and as consumers. And we want to work with President Harris, Vice President Walz, to make this dream the reality for everyone here in this country.
So I think that the key thing about an economy of opportunity is also recognizing that we need to see a vision of where we will be, and that Vice President Harris and the Democratic Women's Council recognize that. So, for example, on the child tax credit, we know that when the Democratic members of the House and the Senate with President Biden and Harris passed into law the child tax credit, we took out of poverty almost 50% of the children living in poverty. Imagine then what it felt like when Republicans refused to extend that, and all those families were thrown back into poverty. The shame of throwing those children back into poverty. And we know that when we pass the child tax credit, it lifts everybody. And that's why it is a kind of tax credit that benefits working families compared to the tax credit that Trump wants, which benefit the 0.01%. Look at the distinction, as our Rip pointed out. Look at the two visions. Let's benefit working families versus benefiting the billionaires and the biggest corporations. And let's talk about housing. Because like I said, from the people's house to your house, we want to make sure that our families are in a place that is secure, that their rent or their mortgages are stable. What happens if you can acquire a home of your own? Your housing costs stabilize. You are no longer subject to rents that go up and up and up, which is why I'm very happy about her proposals to make sure we help people get a home of their own. And I indeed have a bill called the Home of Your Own Act, based on a pilot project that I have in New Mexico, and we know it works. When you provide down payment assistance to families who are working families, who are lower middle income families, you help them get into a home. They can then own a piece of the dream. They can have that dream and look forward. They can pass that home on to their children. That's how we build wealth, but that's how we build economic stability and prosperity. And she does that over and over again. We are talking about those things. We are in sync with her proposals. We are all carrying legislation that is in sync with those proposals because we know that's how you help American families get ahead. That's true family values.
Okay, great. Yes.
Good morning. So the cost of child care is outpacing inflation, and the Labor Department has found that maternal unemployment is lower in counties where the cost of child care is higher. So I'm wondering, is there specific legislation that the caucus wants to pursue that would lower the cost of child care?
Thank you for that question. And we know that childcare is a huge issue. As we work to lower costs across the board for families, childcare can be bigger than that rent or mortgage payment. It can be bigger in some cases than college tuition for that child. And so part of what we are doing with this commitment is also we have very specific legislation that can get this done and make sure that we are living up to our promise to American women that we see them. We know how unaffordable and inaccessible this is. So there are three basic premises to all of this. One, childcare has to be affordable. Two, you have to be able to access it in a community, not driving hours to get to childcare on top of a busy work schedule. And three, we have to pay our early educators a living wage, a fair wage. What we are hearing is that people who are caring for our children are often paid a wage working full time, which they do not have enough income to care for their own children. In the United States, we put on average $500 into caring for a toddler in this country. In our other developed nation peers, that number is 14,000. So it is long past time that we look at our full range of public education and help parents carry this incredible load that we are asking them to.
So, yeah, and more specifically, child tax credit, fully, funding the CBDG money, making sure that we have a Department of Education that we're funding the preschool education. There's lots of ways to get to it. And
You can cut the cost by a third or a quarter just doing what Washington, D.C. does, which is having pre-kindergarten.
Yeah.
Sending children to public schools when they're 4 years old. That's 25-30% of your cost of childcare right there.
Okay, anybody else?
And if I could add just one last thing on early
Okay,
child
go ahead.
care.
Oh, so sorry.
I actually
Thanks.
have a bill called, so like we said, we have legislation that fits with what we're doing. I have a bill called Women in Agriculture, because the other thing you find is we don't have enough child care in our rural areas. And so I have a bill called Women in Agriculture Act. If we ever got a farm bill done, right, that actually would put childcare back into the USDA programs because it was taken out. So we are looking at the importance of childcare in all zip codes, whether it's urban, suburban, or rural.
Okay, we got it. Anybody else? Thank you all for being with us. Okay.